Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show. It's part of TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you through Aquarius Home Services Studios. After a brief holiday break, we want to get into a couple of big picture things with John today. One is just the Timberwolves are playing better. We're talking here on Tuesday morning before their games against Oklahoma City and the Boston Celtics this week. Also, John had a good conversation with Donte DiVincenzo, who's playing better now. Let's get into that and just everything going on with this team, the Western Conference, and the NBA in general. The show is part of TalkNorth.com. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services Studios thanks to Princeton's Liquors, TSR Injury Law, True Vision Institute, Head Flyer Brewing, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. All right, John, let's start big picture here. The team just beat the 3 Texas teams in a row. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I just think that what you see from the Timberwolves, first of all, on the biggest of pictures is a bit of a sense of urgency. You know, we have seen and heard from them all season long that we needed some patience, that you needed to just kind of let this thing come together, not panic. And I think all of those, that was the right approach. But ultimately, when they went and got wiped out by the Knicks on their home floor, they lose to a bad Warriors team on their home floor, and then they go on the road to open a 3-game trip in Atlanta and lose fairly decisively to the Hawks. I think that there was finally a bit of a sense of, we better get going here. Like we gotta really lock in. And so now, you have seen them just playing harder. You have seen them, I think, a little bit more focused on both ends of the floor. And that has been good. Then from a more like micro perspective, I think Chris Finch has done a really good job of reshuffling the rotations. He did not change the starting lineup as many people were clamoring for and put Naz Reid in and take Julius Randle out. But what he has done is tweak his rotation so that they get to a grouping where Julius Randle is playing with primarily the bench guys, with Donte DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and then often it's Josh Minott in that spot, in that 4th spot. And that kind of grouping, I think, has jump-started Julius Randle. I think that Donte DiVincenzo is playing much, much better now. And it also is sort of getting away from that starting 5 and playing less minutes with the starting 5 together, which is a good thing, unfortunately, for the Wolves, because the starting 5 has not clicked at all. So you're seeing some tweaks from Finch with his rotations and his substitution patterns, and then just overall a group that is, just kind of trying to push themselves a little bit harder, and it's starting to pay off, and you're seeing some really good wins here stack up together.
No doubt about it. It is fascinating to see this team play so well and to see them play offense the way Chris Finch wants them to play when the starters leave. When Edwards and Randle leave. I mean, it's like DiVincenzo, we'll talk more about him in a minute, Naz Reid and Alexander Walker. It seems like they have that magic chemistry that the rest of the team's looking for.
Yeah, I think that, we've talked all season and Chris Finch has said that, he believes that they are one of the deeper teams in the league. And I do think that 6, 7, and 8 are about as good as any 6, 7, and 8 in the league, with Reid, DiVincenzo, and Alexander Walker. That said, so that's a good thing. That's the plus. But the minus is it is clear almost every game that it's like, okay, once they break that starting 5 up, they can really get going. They're always starting games in a deficit because that group just has not found any kind of a groove. Part of the reason is the spacing on the floor is not the same. I mean, Julius Randle has nights where he shoots the ball really, really well from 3. Did it against Houston a couple of games ago, and that is a big help. But then on nights where he's not, then you have Randle and Jaden McDaniels and unfortunately Mike Conley, not really threats on the perimeter, which makes it easier for defenses to defend the rim against Anthony Edwards and makes it harder for Edwards to get things going. Mike Conley is not playing well right now. I think that he's had a hard time adjusting to his sort of different role with Randle in that starting 5 as more of a facilitator. And also he may be getting a little bit old as well. But, the one problem that persists here, Jim, is that the Wolves seem to dig themselves a hole early on in the game. And then it's just a matter of, okay, how long are you going to stick with these starters, and how big is the hole going to get before you bring in your bench guys, get the lineups reconfigured, and climb back into the game?
At this point, do you think it's best just to stay the course and let these guys figure it out, or is there a tweak that you could see having a beneficial result?
Yeah, it's interesting, Jim, because I think what we have seen so far from Chris Finch is that he is a patient coach, and he is going to stick with what he believes in. And I think that has been a great frustration for fans, for a lot of fans who, were demanding that Randall be removed from the lineup earlier. Now it seems like a lot of the fan angst has shifted to, hey, Donte DiVincenzo's playing well, so you should start him and pull Mike Conley. And that's just not how Finch has been operating so far in this season, or really in his coaching career. He doesn't listen to that noise, and he sticks with it. I think that his approach here is, I believe in Mike Conley. I think he's going to start playing better. He's going to figure this out. He's going to be more aggressive, and he's going to help us. And just like I believe Julius Randle should stay there, and he's starting to pay off in terms of some of the things that he's given, Mike Conley will as well. And so I don't anticipate that Finch is going to make a move that way. But I do not also see right now some sort of obvious thing that is going to happen that will just automatically mean the puzzle pieces fit better on the board. Could Mike Conley start to knock down that floater a little bit more, and maybe even be a little more reliable from three, and give them a different threat and space the floor? Yeah, I think that could happen. Is it likely? That I'm not sure about. And so I think this is going to test Chris Finch's loyalties quite a bit here, and it's also going to probably make fans pull their hair out a little bit more, because I just think that he is a coach that stays with his guys, that shows confidence in them, and believes that eventually over the long haul that is going to pay off. And I don't, I guess I'll be a little surprised if that does happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks here.
And, I've been covering professional sports for a long time. We've covered a lot of different coaches. We've covered different sports. I think the one thing that gets underrated by the anxious fan is that when you're in Finch's position or Conley's position, or, whatever head coach or manager in this market, they have to deal with the fallout if they try something and it doesn't work. If Chris Finch benches Mike Conley and then whatever he tries doesn't work out, you just don't know how well you're going to be able to go back to just sticking Mike Conley. It's these guys, these people all have emotions, and this is nothing about Mike Conley as an individual. He's about as classy a guy as you'll ever meet. But they have to think about the ramifications of the moves, not just, fantasy basketball where you just plug somebody else in and hope they get a certain amount of points.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jim. And I think that there's a certain segment of the fan base that just says, you got to set the egos aside. It's about winning games, and you got to put, and you just do what you have to do to win that game that night. And oftentimes what is happening is a coach is making decisions based on obviously what he thinks will help that night, but also how it is going to affect the ecosystem of the team over the long haul. This season is incredibly long, and 82 games is a ton of games. And so a lot of times one of the primary objectives of a head coach is, how do I keep the equilibrium of the team as steady as possible as we navigate the ups and the downs that are going to come. And one of, I think, the biggest challenges that any coach faces is how do I interpret what I'm seeing on the granular basis? So right now, the Wolves are playing well leading into the New Year's Eve game against the Thunder. Wins over Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, very good wins, very hard fought, well executed down the stretch, all of those things. And so, how much does he continue to lean into this little particular stretch of what he has found? And how much does he continue to tweak it and to kind of monitor things? Same with when they lost 3 in a row. Finch did not as not everyone, but as a large portion of the fan base was clamoring for, he did not just blow the entire thing up and make huge sweeping changes, because he believed that he had to generally stick with what he had with this group. And if he did make drastic changes, then he threatened to turn a 3-game losing streak into you're losing 8 of 9. And then you've lost some guys on the team for the entire season. And you want to think, oh, well, these guys are professionals. They get paid a lot of money. They should be fine. That's just not how it is. It is human. There's human nature. There's feelings involved. There's egos involved. There's politics involved. And it is a lot of things to juggle as you are going from one game to the next and trying to get your team to just settle into some sort of identity. And I think Finch has done a good job of not letting, the pressure become some sort of tidal wave that just buries him and buries this team.
Well said. Let's get to Donte DiVincenzo here next. Again, we're coming to the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to hear more about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. I've been telling you about it for quite a while now. It is a local company that has been a fixture in the North Metro community for decades. Bill Princeton and his family have been selling alcoholic spirits, wines, beer, everything for just going back almost 100 years now. They have been fixtures here. You go into Princeton's Liquors and they have a couple of specials, specialties that you're going to find better selections than anywhere else in the metro area. One is craft beer. You're going to see local companies. You're going to see hard to find beers from all over the place. And they also have an unbelievable selection of bourbon. So, as you're gathering for holiday parties, as you're gathering for work gatherings, maybe a New Year's Eve celebration, go into Princeton's Liquors. They will have something there that you can pick up. And when you walk into your party or your gathering, people are going to be really impressed by what you found. They have wine, they have any kind of spirits that you want, but bourbon, craft beer are their specialties at Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
We have big plans for this year, for this show and for the network. And one of the reasons we've been able to get to this point with our network is longtime loyal partners like TSR Injury Law, Steve Terry's firm. You see Steve on the commercials. The commercials are great, by the way. They did such a great job with the billboards, but there's nothing better than watching somebody you like and know on TV throwing a bounce pass to Naz Reid. So just thank you to TSR Injury Law. And just remember, if you're ever injured, call 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. They will not charge you unless they win your case, and they win lots of cases. So check them out, TSR Injury Law. And now we want to hear more about Jon's experience with True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. Go to truevision.com to set up a consultation and just start changing your life in this new year that's coming right around the corner. I went into True Vision last summer and got LASIK surgery. And I cannot tell you how many people come up to me and say, wow, you look great. You look younger. And I say, well, thanks for that. But most importantly, my life is just easier now that I've had LASIK surgery at True Vision. And so you go into True Vision in Bloomington and you meet with just the warmest, kindest staff there that get you set up, that take you through the paces, that look to find the right vision correction solution for you. Maybe it's LASIK. Maybe there are other procedures. Maybe it's just glasses, whatever it is. You go in there and they will make sure you get to the right thing for you without any pressure, without any kind of sales pitch. They just get you where you want to go. I had LASIK surgery. It is one of the best decisions I've made in years and years. And so I really recommend that you do the same. You want to turn over a new leaf. You want a little bit of new energy in 2025. Set up a consultation with True Vision. Go in there and talk to the good folks there and then start leading a simpler, more convenient life with LASIK surgery from True Vision. True Vision, CHUvision.com.
All right. So what has led to Donte DiVincenzo's hot streak lately?
Yeah, Jim. So we were in the locker room after the San Antonio win, which was a really good performance. I think probably Donte DiVincenzo's best performance of the season. He had 26 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Was all over the court defensively, knocking down shots, and this was on the back of a 22-point performance against Houston. Played 36 minutes against the Rockets, 33 against the Spurs, because Chris Finch just could not take him off the floor. And so after the game, it was just a really interesting couple of conversations that we had, because started off with Rudy Gobert, and Dane Moore asked Rudy about, hey, with Donte DiVincenzo, you know what it's like to be traded. You know what it's like to kind of go through the paces. Like, what do you think Donte DiVincenzo has experienced, and what is starting to click in for him? And Rudy had a very profound answer. He said that, I think, I could tell that Donte was holding on to some frustrations about the move and about kind of the unexpected nature of the trade. And he said, I think that he needed to let some of that go and just kind of move forward in his new environment. And that kind of mentality helped him really just kind of settle in and find his game again. It was such a good answer that I went to Donte DiVincenzo after he had done his kind of normal media scrum in the post game, and kind of walked out with him and just kind of poked at that a little bit and said, hey, Rudy said this. What do you, is that accurate? And Donte was really enlightening about the situation. And what he said to me was like, yeah, like he said, it's nothing against Minnesota. It was nothing against the Timberwolves, but I think the thing that he was not sort of letting go of was that in his last couple of experiences in a Knicks uniform, he was in Madison Square Garden in the playoffs, and had just electric moments in Game 2 against Philadelphia, where he hits the 3 to win the game, and the whole place is just shouting his name and serenading him, and it was amazing. Then his last game in the Knicks uniform was Game 7 in Madison Square Garden of the second round against Indiana. He scores 39 points. The team battled. They lose to the Pacers, but like, he was this rock star there. And he had really, in one season, just kind of resonated with that fan base and become a fan favorite, and had some amazing moments. And then he's just traded abruptly right before the season begins. He's gearing up for year 2 with the Knicks. He thinks he has a great place within that organization. All of a sudden it changes. And so he gets here and he's getting settled in, and the Timberwolves aren't playing well. There's fan expectations on the team that they're not meeting. There's some booing in the home stadium early on in the season, and it's just a whole different vibe. And so DiVincenzo just said, he had a conversation with Dennis Schroeder, of all people, who also told him, like, look, you have to just let it go. You have to stop sort of thinking about what you had in New York and start thinking about what you have in Minnesota and how to move forward with that. And DiVincenzo said that, yeah, that's what I was doing. Like, he said, I'm happy in Minnesota. I love my teammates. I love my coaches. I love being here. But there was a part of him that was still in New York. And as long as he was sort of holding on to those very visceral memories of the crowd chanting his name, of a team that really was playing together and really was locked in and fighting and clawing every single night, that was holding him back from fully sort of embracing his new home, his new role, his new team. And over the last 6 or 7 games, he said he's just found a way to kind of put all of that behind him and really just start to say that this is where I am. I know this team values me, and now I have to play better. And you're seeing the numbers. Over the last 6 games, he's averaging almost 17 points a game. He's shooting 49% from 3. He's just playing better. He's turning the ball over less. Like, it just looks like the Donte DiVincenzo that the Timberwolves believed they were getting in that Karl Anthony Towns trade. And it's been just a night and day difference in everything about him and his game over these last 6.
Let's talk about the West and this week. First, though, let's hear more about Head Flyer Brewing.
Yeah, Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis. If you're listening to this on New Year's Eve day, just want you, and you need some plans for a party on New Year's Eve to ring in the new year, go on to Head Flyer in Northeast Minneapolis. If you've been there to watch a live show that we've had there, it's a great tap room. It's open. There's plenty of room to move around. There's a lot of seating to go. They have a pizza truck out in the front that has unbelievable pizza to have there. But most of all, they have just great beers, great THC drinks, great way to celebrate. They'll have the Timberwolves game on the flat screen TVs, the many flat screen TVs in the tap room. And they're going to have happy hour deals from noon until tip off on New Year's Eve day. They have, once the game starts against the Thunder, they'll have seltzer shots available and free shots for all Wolves dunks. They'll have halftime commentary from the band Four on the Floor and some giveaways at halftime. I think there's a really cool giveaway that Andrew Height, our salesperson, has kind of arranged Timberwolves related with Head Flyer, I believe, that might be there for them for tonight. And then they're also having a post-game concert until midnight from Four on the Floor. The tap room will stay open till 12:30. It's going to be a great time. So, if you need a last minute plan for New Year's Eve, go to Head Flyer in Northeast Minneapolis, watch the Wolves game, have some drink specials, have some great beers, hang out with your friends, and maybe see if the Wolves can stun the Thunder and then ring in the new year with Four on the Floor.
We want to thank another longtime sponsor and a big part of the Wolves scene, Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
sglambchops.com is the place to go for the most comfortable, the most stylish casual wear, sweatpants, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, everything that you could want. Go to Head Flyer Brewing go to sglambchops.com, Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing. And when you go to that website, put in JONK20 for your chance to get 20% off anything you want at sglambchops.com. Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing. Jordan and Craig, you have seen them courtside at Timberwolves and Lynx game. Another really community-based company that we love to work with. And you can wear this stuff at home while you're lounging and watching games and just hanging out. You can also wear it out on the town. Go to the North Loop for a night. You're going to see plenty of Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing out there. It's just cool. It's comfortable. It's super high quality and super affordable stuff from Jordan Craig at sglambchops.com.
Felt like last year, getting a top seed felt like the entire goal for the franchise preseason, right during the season. And it feels like this year it's more just about, maybe just because the way they're playing, but it feels more like the emphasis is just play well and let things fall into place. And it feels like a lot of teams feel that way right now. How many Western Conference teams right now do you think are locked in on getting a top 2 seed? And how many are just wanting to play well and not worry so much about exactly how you match up?
Yeah, no, it's a really good kind of thing to get into right now in terms of, kind of just looking at the landscape of the West, because there has certainly been, understandably, some real frustration from fans. Like they have not liked what they've seen from this team a lot in the early going, and I think they had every right to want to see more effort, to want to see just more fluid chemistry on the court, certainly better play from Conley, from Nas, from Randall, from DiVincenzo, from all of these different parts that have struggled so far. But in the middle of sort of all of the panic that we have seen and felt around the Timberwolves fan base because of all the expectations coming into this season, they haven't really gotten buried in the standings at all. while they've been struggling to find themselves. Really, it looks like right now that the Thunder are a cut above everyone else. They're 26-5 going into the New Year's game against the Wolves. They haven't had everyone available to them. Chet Holmgren's been hurt some. Jalen Williams, I believe, was out for a little bit. He's back. They've really kind of struggled through things. Hartenstein missed some time, but they just keep winning. So they look like the clear best team in the league, and maybe with Cleveland and Boston, the best team, your best team in the entire league. But then after that, Jim, you have Memphis and Houston, who have both been good, and they both have 11 losses right now. And then it's just a cluster of 13 loss, 14 loss, which is the Wolves. They're 17-14, 16 losses. So the Wolves are in 8th right now at 17-14, but there are 3 teams ahead of them, or 4 teams, ahead of them with 13 losses. And so you have Dallas, the Clippers, Denver, LA, that are all right there jockeying. And so this is a case of, if you have a good week, you win 3 or 4 in a row, you're going to move up 3 or 4 spots in the pecking order of the West. You also, if you have a bad week, you're going to fall out of the playoff picture altogether. So I think that, really, I just look at the Thunder as a cut above. I think Memphis has been great and Houston has played really well, but both of those teams, I think, are susceptible, or certainly not. You wouldn't say that they're, unbeatable, they're unattainable spots for the Wolves or any other team to go at. And then you get into the 4 seed with the Mavericks are 20-13, and Luka's out for quite a while here, and maybe they'll stumble just a little bit without Luka. And so all of it is right there for the Timberwolves still. I mean, you're getting into the top 4, not just the top 6 in the West and staying out of the play-in, but getting in the top 4 and having home court advantage, at least in the first round of these playoffs, is a very realistic thing if what we have seen from the Wolves over the last couple of games and things is real. That's where we're going to start finding out. When you look at their schedule coming up, it's very difficult. It's very daunting. But if they start playing better and they start stacking some wins, you're going to see them climb right back into the sort of the grouping of teams that they expected to be in when the season opened.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to talk about, but we're going to have a million shows to talk about all the other issues with this team. For today, let's wrap things up with the Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line Twitter question.
Yeah, we'll go for Corey Hermanson today, who had a good question that I think does sort of hit at a lot of the fan ire out there right now. And so where would you rank Chris Finch league-wide in stubbornness to make changes? and I will say that, you and I have talked a lot about Chris Finch and the way that he goes about the job. I think, Jim, this is my 21st season covering the Wolves. I've covered a ton of different coaches. I think he has the best mix of on-court acumen with the politics of the job and being able to do the things that he needs to do and understand the outside forces that affect his approval rating within the organization, as well as what he does on the court. I think he just does a great job in general of balancing those things. But yes, in terms of like overall stubbornness, yeah, I think he is a stubborn coach. I think that he has a very strong belief system in place, and he thinks that what he has is the way forward. And when we talk stubbornness, we often think about Tibbs and kind of the way that he ran things, and it was sort of he didn't bend to any sort of pressures or outside wills. Now Finch has a much different personality than Tibbs, but he certainly has a similar belief in what he is doing, what his staff is doing to put the best team out on the floor. And that's why you will see him kind of stick with his guys. Kyle Anderson last year, Mike Conley this year, Julius Randle this year, and he will kind of not panic in the moment, and he will march forward with it. And I think a lot of times that is going to serve him well. That's been a theme of his coaching career, is that he's had a lot of success, despite, a lot of fans who wanted him fired a week ago or more and just get him out of here. He's had a lot of success with this organization. And part of the reason is that he has instilled a culture and a system that he does believe in. Now, it doesn't mean that he is dogmatic about it. He has made some changes to the rotation. He is trying some different lineups, as we talked about earlier in the show. But yes, overall, I think that some people would be a little bit, I guess, surprised to kind of hear stubborn as a word that is associated with Finch. But whether you use stubborn or whether you just use super strong belief in himself and in what he's doing, it is there for Finch. He's not going to be one that makes sweeping changes at the drop of a hat when something is going wrong or really, really right with the organization. And that might be a frustration in the moment for fans, but I do think that his coaching staff and his players generally appreciate, that about him. And it's worked so far. And, I do think he will have to probably be a little more flexible going forward. But in general, he's going to kind of stick to what he feels like got him here, and also what he believes is going to get the Wolves kind of out of the rut that they were in earlier this season.
Also, check out Jon on the Viking Update show. Check out our full sports and outdoors lineup at TalkNorth.com. When you find a show you like, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. For today, for Jon Krawczynski, for our producers at TalkNorth.com, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.